Hi guys, and welcome to our channel. For those of you who don't know us, my name is Irina.
And I'm Dev, and we travel the world,
Providing you with useful information along the way.
In this video, you're going to see the most 20 shocking things that I saw while in Russia. So grab your popcorn and let's get into it.
I'm originally from Russia, but I've been living in New York for 12 years.
And I'm originally from Belize, and I've been living in New York for all my life. I've been dreaming and wanting to go to Russia for so long.
And now it finally happened.
Yes.
We went to Moscow and St. Petersburg, where we spent the entire month. Moscow and St. Petersburg are huge cities with very developed train system, and we've been taking metro the entire time.
And speaking of metro, we could actually get into number one. So the first thing that really kind of shocked me when going to Moscow subway system was whenever you go through the subway, you have to go through scanners, and they will also stop you randomly and check your knapsack, and they put it through a scanner, and you could see everything that's in it, and then they give it back to you, and then you go ahead and you pass through. That was kind of shocking to me because
pretty much like at the airport, security is no joke there. There's a lot of police on the subway, and they can randomly stop you and scan your bag.
After going through the metal detectors, it's number two, going down into the subway system. The escalators. Holy crap. These things are super long. I've never seen anything like that. It's long, and it's also steep that you can like hardly see the bottom, and you're just there. I timed it, people. 3 minutes it took to get to the bottom. And that's not even because it was going slow. It was going pretty much faster than your standard escalator, and still 3 minutes.
And sometimes you even need to go down one escalator, go to another platform, and then go down another escalator. And because it's a big city, everybody is in a rush, pretty much just like in New York. There are 2 lanes on the escalator. One is where for lazy people, where they just stand and wait for the escalator to bring you down. And there's an express lane where people pretty much run up or down the escalator, so you always have to stand to the side.
At the bottom of the escalator, there's always like a little booth, and there's like someone standing in there, like a little agent, to make sure that the escalators are running properly. I guess because it's so long, they have to manage it.
Sleep in there.
Yeah, that's true too. We passed a couple people in there in the booth, and I'm like, are they sleeping? So,
yes. So both Moscow and St. Petersburg have very deep subways. One of the deepest subways in Moscow is 276 feet down under the ground. Super deep.
Crazy. Once you make it down the escalator after 3 minutes or so, is the architecture. Oh my goodness. That, I've never seen anything like that before. The architecture in these subways, it's just mind-blowing. The amount of detail. It's like, forget about it. It's like being in a museum.
Yes.
Pretty much like being in a museum. And the thing is, every train station stop is a different architecture. It's a different layout. It's crazy. In New York, I'm used to like all the subways, they look the same. They're labeled the same. You could find everything exactly in the same place. Like if you want snacks, it's always in the middle of the platform. If certain information signs, they're always located at the same place on the platform. Moscow, not like that. Like everything is just so different. And you're like, you come out of every station, you're like, what? It's really amazing.
Did you notice how clean that was?
Oh, yeah, that's another thing. Cleanliness, like squeaky clean. Like you could eat off the floor clean. Who knew? Like literally, I wasn't even thinking that I would see that, because again, I'm comparing with New York. I'm not sure where you're from and how your subway system is. In New York, there's
rats, garbage right on the train tracks.
People throw their stuff on the train tracks, and there's a lot of track fires because of that. It's gotten a little better over time, but I was blown away at how clean Moscow train station is. It's like, it's unbelievable. And now, number 4, the frequency of the trains.
This is so cute how amazed he is.
Seriously, here's what it is. The first time we took the subway, as soon as we got to the bottom of the platform, the train was pulling up. And I was like, oh, cool. We're lucky. We got here right on time. We got to jump on the train. Woohoo! Second time we took the train, coming back from where we were going, the same thing happened. We got on the platform, the train was pulling up. I was like, well, damn, I'm feeling lucky. That's twice we're taking the train. The train's rolling up at the same time. The third time we took the train, we got on the platform. The train wasn't rolling up right away, but literally within about 20 seconds on the platform, I see the light coming from the tunnel. And I'm like, that's really weird. So I brought it up to Irene. I'm like, do you realize that since we've been here, we've taken the subway 3-4 times, and every single time the train happens to come as soon as we get on the platform, that can't be luck anymore. Because in New York, again, we're not used to that. The train was coming every 2 minutes on the clock. So when she told me this, I was like, are you serious? Does the train really come that frequently? She's like, yeah. I'm like, that can't be. No way in hell you can tell me that. So what did I do? Pulled out my phone and I started timing the train. Literally 2-minute increments on the dot like that. I'm like,
sometimes even faster.
Yeah, I'm like, how is it possible? Like, the city is big. Like, how many trains do they have running on these lines that they're within 2 minutes apart from each other?
And you see, in New York, even though the train runs every 5, 10, or even 15 minutes, there is train traffic. And that blows my mind. Because coming from Russia, from Moscow and St. Petersburg, you know how frequent the trains are, and you never hear, oh, there is train traffic. Very rarely. In New York, all the time, the train stops in the middle or in between stations and say, oh, there is train traffic. I'm like, how is it even possible?
Mm-hmm. Number 5, when you're actually on the subway, surprisingly enough, the train stops are announced in Russian and then English. So that to me is really cool because you get to know, a lot of, because the Russian language is just so complicated. You know, when you're traveling, you always have your phone on and you're trying to figure out where to go. But when you hear the announcements of the stops in English, it really, really helps a lot getting around. I think that's brilliant.
And not only announcements, all the signs are also in the metro in Russian and English.
Number 6, free Wi-Fi. Being in Moscow and having the free Wi-Fi, basically the way it works, you just have to kind of log in, and it's advertisements inside each car, and it says there's free Wi-Fi, and then you just got to put in the code and then it connects, which is really awesome. So again, if you're a tourist like I am and you're like, oh, I need to go here, but you don't have no Wi-Fi or no internet because you're so far on the ground, it's really great to help you get around the city and navigate around. It makes it so easy.
Right. Again, in New York, the Wi-Fi only on certain stops, but in Russia, it's actually on the train, inside your train car. So while you're riding the train, you can get Wi-Fi the whole way around. While visiting Moscow and St. Petersburg, don't hesitate to take a ride. Metro is a must. You'll be shocked. There are signs in English. There are even information stands that you can approach and ask questions.
And it's cheap.
Yes, very affordable.
Number 7, supermarkets. The supermarkets in Moscow are 24 hours. Well, most of them, most of the bigger ones are 24 hours. That's kind of shocking to me because most supermarkets, they close at 10 maybe or 11, but to be open for 24 hours, that was shocking to me. And they were so common, so many places. If you needed something in the middle of the night, you can find it in Moscow.
Even in New York, the city that never sleeps, supermarkets close, and it's very rare to find a 24-hour supermarket.
Yeah, and speaking of supermarkets, another strange thing, little side note here, is that you have to bring your own paper bags or your own plastic bags and your shopping bags, because they do charge you in the supermarket. So if you're buying groceries and you need something to carry it in, make sure you bring it or expect to pay for it.
I know some states in America do charge for bags. For example, in Hawaii, where we are now, But in New York, we're not used to paying for grocery bags.
Yeah. While in the supermarkets, something you may notice is when you go to buy eggs. When you buy eggs, how many eggs do you usually get when you buy a container of eggs? 12, right? Nope, not in Moscow. You're gonna get 10 eggs in the container. Why? I don't understand that. That's the first time we picked up eggs and I'm like, this carton looks really small. I'm like, how do they fit 12 in here? And I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, there's 10 eggs in here. Where's the other 2? She's like, it comes 10 eggs. I'm like, really? I'm like,
well, that was a shocker for me when I came to America and saw 12 eggs. I'm like, that's a big container. Why 12 eggs?
so if someone can explain why is it that they put 10 eggs in a container,
Or
drop
why
that comment.
12, okay?
Drop the comment in below. I'd like to know, because actually any one of these things that we're about to speak of or have spoken of, if you have any additional tips you'd like to share with our viewers and us as well that we may not know or may not have included, please drop it in the comment and let us know. This should be very interesting because I'm always fascinated by these things. So on to the next one. Number 9, flower shops. Well, what's so strange about flower shops? Well, they're 24-hour flower shops in Moscow. Now, initially when I saw one open really late, and it also says 24 hours right on the top of it, it's like, why would they be open 24 hours? Who's gonna be buying flowers at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning? A lot of questions ran through my mind.
Men who mess up and don't call their wives and out partying, and then they come home at 3 in the morning and the wife is like, where have you been?
And he's like
flowers,
like,
love you.
I know for a fact, just because through social media, Instagram, Facebook, have you ever seen a girl sitting on a couch or something and she has a bouquet of about 80 dozen roses like this?
80 dozen.
It's like you don't even see her, you just see the bouquet of flowers. 9 out of 10 times, that's a Russian woman. 9 out of 10. You know what? Forget about it. It's 10 out of 10. That's a Russian woman. They love flowers. So I guess that explains why there would be a 24-hour flower shop. And some of them was just like little boxes and really, really tiny.
Like
a booth,
kiosk,
like a kiosk, yeah.
that is standing in the middle of the road.
Of nowhere.
No other shops.
Nowhere.
It's just kiosk and says flowers 24 hours.
Number 10, paid washrooms, restrooms,
Bathrooms.
toilets, wherever you're from. You know what we're talking about. We went to a few malls and I needed to use the bathroom. But before I went, Irina's like, well, here's some change. And I'm like, change for what? She's like, you're going to the bathroom, right? I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, you have to pay for the bathroom. I'm like, what? Mind blown. You do have to pay for the bathrooms, whether you're in a like state park, there are restrooms, and in malls, and I don't know any other places, but you have to pay for restrooms.
Subways too.
Oh, that's right. In the subways, you have to pay for the restrooms. I thought about that, and I'm like, wow, that's not cool. Like, you need to use the bathroom. Everyone needs to use the bathroom at one point or time during the day, and you're not always at home. Why would they charge you for something that's natural that you have to do? I think because when you go into these bathrooms, you realize most of them, at least that I went into, they were really clean. And there's a lot of times there's a bathroom attendant there as well. So I guess paying for the bathroom kind of keeps it clean, because not anyone will just go in there and, you know, some of these bathrooms you go in there and it looks like a hurricane went through it, not to mention what it smells like. But I think that might have something to do with it. But that was very strange to have to pay to use the bathroom. It's a small fee. I think it's... It
is. It's about 50 cents. However, you do need to have cash. And most likely you do need to have small change for it.
Yeah, so that's kind of like pain in the butt. The only way you're going to have access to a free restroom, washroom, bathroom, toilet is if you're at a restaurant. Then you don't have to pay.
Thank God.
Speaking of toilets, let's talk Airbnb toilets. So, being in Moscow and in St. Petersburg,
and Ukraine, actually, the same thing.
You're right, and Ukraine. And I don't know, maybe if this is a European thing, please, if it is, let us know in the comment. the bathroom is 9 out of 10 times, 10 out of 10 times located near the kitchen. Why? The only thing I could think of is because of the plumbing system, because maybe the pipes are all together and it's like, here's your kitchen and then here's your toilet. Because they're always really in close proximity with each other. So.
And sometimes a toilet is a separate tiny room.
Yeah, that is true. Meaning like, here's your shower and here's your sink, but you have to leave out of there and then go to the toilet, the throne.
And it's like a room like this.
Yeah, it's like a little closet. So it's separate. So it's not like you can use the toilet and then you go shower afterwards. It doesn't work that way. You have to use the toilet and then come out of that door, pop into the next door, and then go to the shower.
Or wash your hands.
Yeah, and to just wash your hands. Kind of weird.
And literally the next door would be your kitchen.
Yeah. Number 12. Doors open outward.
I actually never even realized that. I'm like, what do you mean doors open outward?
So in the US, when you open a door, you open and you walk in. So the doors open inward as you walk in. In Moscow and in St. Petersburg and in Ukraine, you open the door, you pull it out, and then you walk in and then you pull it behind you. So that's kind of strange the way how that works. I kind of noticed that by the second Airbnb. I'm like, why is it that all the doors pull outward? That feels strange to me. Something doesn't feel right.
I'm used to both ways, so I don't even pay attention to it.
Number 13. Unlucky number 13. So, cigarette smokers. This was crazy to me. So, as we were walking through Moscow at the little shops in the subway or up on the streets, they had the cigarette cartons. On the cigarette cartons are graphic, and I mean like the most graphic images you will ever see printed on the cigarette carton box. Teeth falling out, lungs that look like, I don't even know, like just destroyed because of smoking.
The worst things can happen to you
because of smoking.
Smoke. But not all cigarette brands do that. Only a few brands do that. And the other was just says Parliament or whatever the brand name is.
The big name brands, they don't promote it like that. Maybe it's the local cigarette brands that do that. But I was like, ooh. Number 14. While walking around, I noticed in the city, whenever there's a construction site, you will never really see it. They have this beautiful facade. It's a material that they kind of like a tarp that they put over the entire, they drape it over the entire construction site. So
over the scaffolding.
Right. When you're on the outside looking at it, it just looks like you're looking at a building. But it's really graphic work, and behind that is the actual construction work. So that's pretty cool. So you don't get eyesores. You know, sometimes you try to go places and you're surrounded by beautiful architecture, but then there happens to be construction going on and you're like, well, that's awful. I can't take photos there. But they drape stuff over it and they make it look all pretty, all plush. Number 15, money does not exchange hands. So I don't know if it's only me. I notice these things, and I don't know, guys. I mean, right now we're at number 15, and some of the things that I know I've mentioned are kind of like such tiny details. You guys are probably like, how does he even like pick these things up? I have no idea, but I did, and that's why I decided to do this video, because it's like, for me, it's actually a shocker because I'm so used to certain things being from the US that being here now, these things, even though they might seem minute, they really stand out a lot to me. So money does not exchange hands. And what I mean by that, when you go into a store, when you go to the subway, when you go to restaurants, no matter where you go, if there's change giving back, normally in the US, I put my hand out, they put the change in it. Or, you know, sometimes they would put it down on the counter and you pick it up. But that's a normal thing. In Moscow and St. Petersburg and Kiev, there's actually a clear tray. Whenever change is given back, they put it in the tray and you have to pull it from the tray. So there's a designated spot on the counter where the money gets put and you take. So it's never like, oh, here's your change and you're like, thank you. That doesn't happen. Found that to be a little strange.
He actually tried to put his hand out.
It didn't work.
Yeah, they didn't give it to him in the hand. They still put it in the tray.
Right, and the tray would be here, and I put my hand here purposely to make sure that it kind of covers the tray. And they actually went around my hand and put it right in the tray. I was like, oh, I guess not today.
That I cannot explain. I don't know if it's some sort of superstition thing or a trading rule. I'm not sure what that is, but it is what it is.
Number 16, credit card machines. So when you go out to eat in Moscow or St. Petersburg or Ukraine, they bring a credit card machine to the table for you at the end when you're paying your bill. So they never really write the check out. They give you your bill, and then you put the credit card in, and then they take it, they ring it up, and they bring it back. You sign for it, and that's it. It's done. It doesn't work that way. They bring the whole register to you. They actually just bring the credit card machine.
They call it a terminal.
Right. There you go. That's the term for it. A terminal. They bring the terminal to you, and then you just give them the credit card. They pop it in, and they do the transaction, and then they rip out your receipt and give it to you right there. I found that to be unusual. But now that we've traveled for a while, there's other places that do the same thing as well. Mexico does it as well. And of course, as we continue to travel, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of other places we go to where they actually bring it. But I'm just saying, compared to New York, that doesn't happen. In New York, they actually take your credit card, do the transaction away from you, and then they bring it back and you sign for it.
Pretty much anywhere in the US.
Right. Number 17, speaking of restaurants. I have an issue with this one. I have a little gripe. So they never put water on the table for you. Now this is funny because in New York or in the States, that's standard stuff. Like as soon as you sit down at the restaurant, the first thing they do when you sit down is put water, right? They ask you, yeah, tap water at least. They ask you, would you like, water, and there's always water there. So I'm always accustomed to that. But when I went to Moscow and they didn't do it, I'm like, there's something missing. I'm like, why is it there? Why do they never place water on the table or never ask if I want water? And she told me they don't normally do that.
Yes, you have to buy water. You have to purchase water at the restaurant. They would never ask you. You have to kind of order it.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because, again, being in New York, I take things for granted. Water's on the table. Sometimes 8 out of 10 times I will never even drink the water. But when I was in Moscow, I wanted water, and I would have drank it if it was there. But I guess just because I didn't have it is because I wanted it. But that is kind of odd. And a lot of times we were walking around because we were doing a lot of touristy stuff. We were walking around with bottled waters. So in the restaurant, we would just kind of just take out our water and then drink the water out of our bottle. But, just be warned, they will not put water on the table for you. You have to fork over the cash for the H2O.
And sometimes when you go to a more expensive restaurant, a bottle of water could cost you as much as $10 per bottle.
Which is almost same price or more than your meal.
Exactly. And sometimes even alcohol would be cheaper than a bottle of water. Why? Never know.
If you know what to do.
Yes.
Drop that comment. Number 17, dogs without leashes. The Zabashkas are all over the place. No leashes.
Yeah, people just walk around and the dogs just follow them around, and it's normal.
It's kind of weird because my neck of the woods, all them dogs be on leashes. And if you're not on a leash, if you're a dog and you're not on a leash, then that makes you a stray dog. Number 19, pharmacies in Russia, or
Apteka.
So in Russia, there are pharmacies all over the place. Sometimes 3 on one block. That was like one of the first things that I've noticed. And it puzzled me because I was wondering, why are there so many pharmacies?
And even if you go to a doctor with a simple cold, the doctor will prescribe you a list of 10 different drugs and vitamins that you need to go to the pharmacy and purchase.
Yeah, it's really odd to see so many pharmacies. So there's even pharmacies located inside residential buildings. So if anyone knows why this is, please, I'm begging you, I need to know the answer to this. Why is there so many pharmacies in Russia? Put the comment down because I definitely would want to know why. And number 20, again, maybe I notice things too much or whatever. But this one was kind of like, the trees, they grow randomly. And what I mean by that is the Airbnb where we were staying, it was in a complex, and there's a lot of complexes in Moscow. Normally in the US, if you're around a complex, the trees are kind of
in line or in a certain pattern.
Right. Everything is kind of in line or in a pattern. Not in Moscow. The trees are like one here, one there, one here, one there. It's like you're in a forest because they're just so like randomly placed all over the place. And what it really does, it makes the complex look like it was just plopped in the middle of like a forest, and trees just grow wild. Like you go out you look out your window and there's like tree branches coming through the window. So it's like they built the property, but they didn't like really excavate it and cleared it enough so that the trees are away from the building. And then from there, they kind of replanted trees in a nice pattern. It's just like construction. No, we're not going to give you any sidewalk. We're just going to kind of drop you in there and you kind of find your way outside the trees. That's what it seemed like to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it looked like.
Maybe they just want to create a feel of more nature and things being natural. I have no idea.
Yeah. So that concludes the 20 most shocking things that we noticed while in Russia.
That he noticed.
Yeah, that I
I'm
noticed.
used to it.
If you have more to add to this list, which I'm sure if you've ever been there or if you're from there, please leave more in the bottom so we could discuss it, we could talk about it, and maybe we could create another vlog about the stuff that you dropped in the comment. If you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful in any way, please subscribe, like, thumbs up.
And hit that bell notification.
Absolutely. And as usual, just be out with us.